All right. So, welcome to our live stream. We're going to talk about hunting 101, so to speak. Um, I'm Justin Dole.
I'm Edward McFadden.
So, together, we are Reeds and Shells. Um, he is a partner in that. I founded this company about a few years back. Um, it was an umbrella under Orchid Farms where we raised animals and you know homestead operations type deal. Um, and I'm gonna let Eddie talk about what his company holds and what he's looking forward to doing.
Um, like I said, my name is Edward McFadden. Currently, I am actually opening up an LLC here in West Virginia. Going to be operating as a handyman and carpenter, doing both trim carpentry, home repair, and some custom fabrications. I'll be operating under the name of Red Rabbit Repairs. Um, I'm soon to be having my own Facebook business page set up. I'm still getting there. I have not officially gotten that started as far as advertisements or anything.
Well, I hope your company goes very well. Um, and
Mhm.
hey, Harley. um, so
I was just letting you know.
so we're in our houses, so we got kids, and family members will probably come in and out. Um, so the reason for Reeds and Shells is it's a podcast, live stream, whatever you want to see it as. And we're going to talk about hunting tips and you know pros and cons of different materials. We're gonna go over you know myths and
Mhm.
legends, and maybe even dive down into some rabbit holes. There's gonna be some times where it's gonna be me, and there's gonna be some times where it's just gonna be Eddie, if he's comfortable with doing that. I
I,
live in Oklahoma. He lives in West Virginia, as he said before. So we're gonna do our start, how we started, and I'll let Eddie go first in talking about how he started. You know what he learned from when he started hunting to now. How is he putting that into effect? So Eddie, what do you have to say about that?
um, like some, I've started fairly young. Usually with my granddad, just out walking in the back pasture, backwoods, you know, squirrels. Start small, starts with marksmanship. Um, you know, uh, it's just something that for me, it it allowed me a connection to the natural world and just a better way to uh, you know get out and connect with nature, get away from the hustle and bustle of modern living. Not everyone's ready to. Not everyone wants to hear that. Jake break rolling past their house at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it's just something to keep keep a kid outside, keep a kid busy. But it ultimately it turned into probably one of my largest hobbies. Um, just being outdoors in general, hunting and fishing, hiking, camping, the whole lot. Justin, over to you.
Well, a little bit about myself. So, born and raised east southwestern Virginia, parts of East Tennessee. I've hunted both Tennessee and Virginia. Um, and as a kid growing up, my family never hunted, and I had to learn how to hunt. Luckily for me, my grandmother had or my nana had a babysitter that I used to go to, and his my babysitter's husband. took me out. I mean, it was an old pair of bibs and a pair of boots and a jacket. Just from his kids, and so I remember it like it was yesterday for me. And from you recall, you walk outside on a cold October day and you just smell the cold and crisp air. It's a smell that never goes away from you. And while, yes, as a kid, they tell you to sit down, be quiet, don't move.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, just be there, pretty much. You're just learning. And I can remember watching the sun rise above that forest and just see how the sun just beams down on that open field and it just glistens because of the frost. And that's what drove me, and that's a passion for me that still in me today is regardless if I'm hunting or I'm fishing or I'm out in the woods, that sense of me being in the nature is what is my passion and my pride, really. That's one of my main hobbies that I enjoy to do. I mean, Eddie can contest when duck season comes around, that's all I talk about, going duck hunting. Hey, you want to go duck hunting? Hey, you want to go duck hunting? Man, you should have seen this. You should have been down here. And he knows, like, that is just something I love. And
There is not a phone call around that time that is not about ducks.
I got a story about duck hunting here in a little bit. um, so, well, yes, we're gonna rant on about our stories and stuff like that throughout this, but I really want to touch on, how we met. You know, both of us were Navy veterans, and while yes, he met in the service, but that wasn't really our meeting point. We met at your house, and I didn't even know that our wives at the time were, friends.
Right.
I remember walking the door
Yeah.
going, "Hey, I know you."
Universal line, man. It was walked up through the door and it's, hey man, we were just we were just working together. We just spent a whole year on a ship together. What happened? Where you been? How you doing? It was great. It was like a family reunion, It was awesome.
Yeah, and
And
me and Eddie have been
I'm glad
friends
that we are
for
thick as thieves ever since.
yeah. I think we've been friends going on 6 years, 7
5 years.
years now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
6 years.
I mean, I'll call him whenever we have some spots to go hunting. Like, hey, you want to go? And he goes, I got to check my schedule.
Man, that is something that does bug me is, man, just the modern, like I would always love to get more time out in the woods. And it's just trying to find a balance. And that's something we should touch on later also, is trying to
Yeah,
find that balance.
yeah.
I would love to spend every day out there.
I mean, they make jobs now that you can do that. Um,
Gotta give me
but
one of those.
yeah, sign me up. So I guess I'm gonna start off and talk about my company, and it's not published yet. It'll be out here in a couple months. It's focused around, you know, the low man on the totem pole. You know, I grew up, not having the money or the ability to buy hunting gear, and and it's nothing against my raising, because I mean I'm happy that I was raised that way, because it makes me I can't I guess it makes me want it makes me appreciate the better things in life than just going out and buying expensive stuff. You know, like we were talking earlier, me and Eddie, about the old timers. Putting on a green flannel shirt on and a pair of blue jeans and a pair of boots. I mean, we didn't need all that camouflage. they didn't start coming prevalent until, we started, getting into people wanting to look like the trees or look like the leaves or blend in with the snow, camouflage. Now, there's nothing wrong with people getting camouflaged, but if you can't
Like I said
afford it,
earlier, yeah, like I said earlier, there's an old timer somewhere who ain't never wore a lick of camo, and he has had more deer than the rest of us.
yeah,
He's there. He's out there somewhere. I don't know. I don't know where's he at, but he's somewhere. I mean, I know a couple old timers, and they're still they throw on that same jacket they've had for 30 years. Go pick that same tree, and they sit there right there at the bottom on top of an old milk crate. No
yeah.
tree stand, no blind, just a hunting jacket, some good pair of boots, and a milk crate. And that's what they sit with.
And that is what, you know, to me, those people are what I want to learn from, or who I want to learn from. Because by the end of the day, I mean, I know I'm not going to go out and buy these expensive products anymore. We're just not. And it's not saying it's not worth it, but it's just not something that I feel is necessary for me. You know,
Right.
I have an old hunting jacket that I've had for 20 years almost now. And I just finally gave it to my son because he's starting to go out and hunt. And he's a little old thin bone kid. Me, I'm over here got fat for days that I'll heat up a polar bear. So I don't tend to get cold as easily. Um, but, you know, back to my business. So in the business coming up, you know, as I said, it's for the low man on the totem pole. It's not just for them; it's for everybody. But I want to make hunting accessories more available, more affordable, that are local made, great quality of materials, and had been tested. And you'll see those in some later videos. I'm gonna have some products. I'm gonna send Eddie some products so he can try out some stuff and see how he likes it. But I mean, like just for dog training. I've got a guy down in Alabama. He runs the 4 Flightway retrieval, and he's just trying to get his business going a lot more than what he's doing. He's been dog training for about 16, even 20 years, I think. And, he just started getting on this platform stuff to start producing, videos to help people like us. And, if you want to bring your dog to him, great, hit him up. And, he's contacted me and saying, hey, man, I just can't find a good quality collar. I can't find a good quality lead. Nothing to diss the major companies, but for an example, Tractor Supply. You go to Tractor Supply, if you're not a hunter or you're not a dog trainer, you can go and buy a dog collar. It probably ain't going to break because they ain't using it as much. But you go to Tractor Supply and you get a good sturdy dog collar and you put on that dog, I give it about a month, month and a half. The threads are already breaking on it. Plastic's already broke. The rings are rusted. So finding good quality stuff at an affordable price is what I'm striving for. And that's what my business is going to revolve around. So, as I said in the beginning, we're going to talk about some hunting 101 tips and stuff. I told you a little bit about my upbringing, where I came from. We're both Navy. He told a little bit about his upbringing. But let's go in a little bit about talking about tips and tricks that you would think to give to somebody that may not be an average hunter. Or maybe they're just starting out. Or maybe they are a hunter and they're just tired of getting the same thing every single time. They'll go out to the hunt, they'll get to a tree stand, and they'll sit for hours on end every single day. So what do you think you give some tips and tricks to them so maybe they can become a better hunter or have a better hunting experience?
In my opinion, if you don't see sign, you have to move. If you have posted up, say in what you would imagine to be a good area, right? Let's say you have a food plot, right? There's water access. There's maybe even a natural choke point. If you set up there just because you think they're going to be there, that's not the spot. You need to have physical sign. And that goes for scat, that goes for scrapes, rubs, and if it's not deer that you're after and it's bigger game, you need to look at more than just ground sign. You need to look at trees. You need to look at the bushes. You need to watch what's moving. You have to actually observe. You can't just see what's in front of you. You have to actually observe and take those observations in and put that in toward part of your stock, essentially. If you are not a stalker and you are a stand hunter, you need to change your mindset from being stationary to being moving between two or three spots. On any given day, they're going to be taking a different path, and you need to have as much information as you can about your area that you're hunting.
So key point. I like that. That's actually a really good tip. Um, location. Location is key, man. You could get up at butt crack dawn, but if you in the right location, you ain't gonna see nothing. You're gonna have
Right.
hunters on WMAs, public land, private, whatever, and you're gonna have them, 100, 200, maybe even 300 yards from you, from your hunting stand, and you could be posted up before they will. They come in, roll in, they've watched the signs, they've done their research, they've they've studied the land, and they put where they know they're going to see action, and they put it there. I mean, just like what was it a couple years ago? We were down in Tennessee, and wow, yes, we got up a little late, and it was a late start, and you did get a deer. So good on you, bud. Um, but I mean, you notice down that clearing area, we had talked about wanting to go down there, and those guys posted up, and I bet you they pulled, 5 deer, and I
They
mean
had
just
they had to they've had to have pulled they've had to have pulled at least three.
yeah,
At
I
least
mean
three.
monster bucks, and you can see them laying down there. So it's location, you know. And what I tell people all the time, and there's this guy that I go to college with. I'm actually going to college for veterinarian science, and there's this guy that's starting
You're
out,
seeing you
and
climber.
he doesn't know what to do, And I try to tell him, like, look, it's location. He's like, well, I need to exercise, and I need this equipment, and I need this. No, you don't. You don't need all that stuff. If you just want to start out and just go get a deer, then here's the thing, location. Whether you're hunting in a blind or you're hunting in a stand, you know, going the extra mile in, like Eddie says, is watching your area. Observing your scenery, whether they're scrapes, trails, scat, whatever. That's gonna put you in the right place. And if you ain't there, move. And I guess for that point, you know, I can sit there and tell you about location all day. You know, I tell you the number one bust for me, and Eddie could probably agree with me. Say we're hunting a tree stand. It's minimum foraging on the floor. There's some birds off in the distance, and they don't notice you. But you got a squirrel nest right next to you.
Mm, sound intrusion.
Sound intrusion. And
Sound intrusion is a big one. You can be the most disciplined person. If you're moving, you're gonna make sound. Now, to be fair, sound travels far, but it does not travel as far as light. Um, Personally, I find and have found, rather, I have found that moving with purpose and being observant of the amount of visible movement you're off putting can sometimes be more helpful than sound discipline, but sound discipline is always going to be necessary.
yeah,
And like you said, sometimes it can be critters that disrupt your sound discipline.
I have had more bust on a hunt with a squirrel than I have any other animal. Now, I'm not sitting there saying that you need to go and set your tree stand up 200 yards, away from this area. You know, I'm not sitting there saying that you need to watch the trees for squirrels. There's been multiple times where I've set up a tree stand, gotten up there, been really quiet, and the squirrels and the birds don't even notice me. So that to me, it just depends. Now I'm not sitting there saying go try to look for the woods and look and see if you see any like amount of squirrels. Don't go in there. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. I mean, I sure make mistakes all the time when it comes to hunting, and I'm not a master hunter. With you know, just move your stuff. Don't sit up in one area. Don't sit there and think that you're guaranteed gonna get something, because chances are you're not gonna get something. And it's to me, it's not even about the hunt. It's just about being there, about listening, watching the sounds of watching the movement of animals, listen to their sounds, understanding. And I'm not a translator, but Eddie can probably attest to this or agree to it. How many times you sit in a tree stand and you hear a squirrel, and just the way that he sounds, you can tell if he's mad, if he's eating, if he's moving, or whatever. You can tell whether he's alerting something.
Right.
Just
Most animals have about four different variances of calls. They'll have their baseline call pattern, and then it'll be adjusted for a type of alert, whether there's predators in the area. Which, to be honest, we get found out as predators all the time by squirrels. Squirrels see humans as a predatory animal. It is almost a fact. They know that we are out there to do something. Humans aren't out in the woods for nothing. They're doing stuff. Whether that's for the squirrels, for the deer, for raccoons, who knows? They're there for a reason. That's still a predator. They're going to treat us as such.
no, I agree with that. I mean, 100%. You know, another point. Don't put your stand or blind right next to a bedding area. I have made that mistake so many times because time and time again, you have these hunters that'll post up, near a bedding area and get lucky. I've never had that, success when it comes to that. I've always had to move away because I either made a noise, I've disturbed something, or maybe my scent has just caught them off guard. They can sense things before they enter. Just I've seen it. And whether that's true or not, I mean, I don't know. To me, I feel like they do. You know, so I just don't set up near a bedded area because I know that they're going to change. I know that they're not going to sleep there every night. So the success to fail ratio is more on the fail, I would assume.
Okay. I mean, to be honest, I'm not one to hunt a bedding area. I prefer to hunt a moving trail rather than a bedded area, just because uh, I, I'm more frequent on public lands, and I know that if the bedding areas are being trampled through, they're not going to move in that area at all. They're just going to completely avoid it. Like you said, scent discipline. That's another good point. Is if you're getting your scent on their trails, they're not going to use that anymore. That's it. That trail's busted for the day. As soon as they find that scent on the trail, that's it. They're not going to come back until it's nighttime.
Right. And
That trail is now being contaminated in their eyes. They're not going to circle around in that area. They're going to go and now take a broader approach and avoid you just
yeah,
because they know you walked through there.
yeah.
They're they're smarter animals than some people give them credit for, and they're dumber animals than some people give them credit for.
I've got a story about that here in a little bit. Um, so another point, like Eddie said, you walk through a trail, they're not going to go there. They're going to go around. Don't set your blinds or your stands right on a trail. Just
Right,
don't do
that's a
it.
recipe for disaster.
I
It's a
mean,
recipe for disaster. You're At some point you're going to contaminate the area. It's what you're asking for. If you find that trail, that sign, heck, even that bedding area, you're gonna want to give it a breath and then set up. You want to be able to have visual contact with that area and maybe even more, but you don't want to be right on it.
no,
Besides, who likes shooting through their feet anyway?
true. I mean, I mean, we've all made that mistake. As a kid, young hunter, you're like, oh yeah, there's a trail. I'm gonna go set up, right there.
Maybe
They're
right here.
guaranteed to walk through it, and they never show up. I've done that so many times. Um, all right, so this is a little off topic for a tip, but it kind of is a tip. Um, how do you feel about when you walk in the woods and it's eerie or really quiet? Give me your thoughts on that. What would you do?
Mm. Now, are we already in, like on our walk? We already walking to our stands. We're setting up, and then it gets quiet,
No,
or is
no.
it quiet as soon as you get there and
It's
approach?
quiet as soon as you enter.
Um, I would say there's a few other factors that determine, what that could be. Uh, Depending on the time, it could be just a sense of alertness in the woods, in the environment, and that's gonna influence everything from insects to birds to the deer themselves to any predators that may be in the area. It's going to change the way the animals act, the amount of ambient noise in the woods. Um, Now, if that does give you that eerie, creepy feeling, make the hairs stand up on the back of your neck, it's a known phenomenon. You can almost certainly tell when you're being watched. If you feel like you're being watched, I'd say watch back, personally.
I had a. I remember me telling you about the mountain lion story exactly, and yeah, it's pretty bad. But I'll talk about that video later. But that sense of eeriness, I've experienced that all over the woods, and it's not just all the time. Like Eddie said, are you in the woods when you experience it, or do you walk up into it? What do you do? For me, if I walk into the woods and it's eerie and it's quiet and it just don't feel right, chances are I'm not gonna hunt just because I don't know what's in those woods. I don't know if there's another human there. I don't know if there's another predator. I don't know. You know, and when you become a hunter, or you are a hunter, or you've been hunting for some time, you know what I'm talking about, especially for those
Right,
feelings.
right.
And
And you got to trust your gut. If it is off, it is off. I've been there. I've had that gut feeling of, man, I've not seen nothing all day. What is going on? And
like
then the
that,
moment I go to climb down, and I move 50 yards, bam, there it is, mother lode. And I see 5 deer run past me, and I ain't ready. You know, like
like
I'm,
that time we climbed that telephone pole.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is a little unnerving. Next thing we know, we're starting sliding, a couple inches at a time. Scoot, scoot, down the pole we go.
Let
That
me
was
preface
that was
that.
an
So,
interesting hunt. That was a good hunt.
so that was a good hunt. We didn't get anything, but it was a good hunt. It was like a rainy day. I think it was like
Mm,
October ish, and my uncle at the time, my uncle owned this property, this farm. He still owns it, but he's talking about selling it to his family members. And so me and Eddie decided that we were going to go hunt because my cousin goes up there and hunts all the time, and I mean pulls out deer left and right, red to line. And but he just rides up on his ATV, and there they are.
yeah.
Us, we don't have an ATV, so we're walking up there, right before light, getting in, getting all set up, and we start scanning the area, going, where are we going to put our stands? The only thing in that whole field was a telephone pole. And so, of course, I tell Eddie to go up front because I figured he would be better. And if he fell down, I'm the bigger person, so I could probably catch everything going down. And we get up there, and it wasn't raining at the time, but it had just got done raining. So we thought it was
Yeah,
a
it
good
wasn't
idea
dry
to
either.
go out there. Yeah, well, we thought it was a good idea, especially with the rain, you know. And so we get up on this pole, and Eddie goes, "Oh no!" I said, "What?" He goes, "This pole's too slick." I said, "Well, your teeth can dig into it." So he starts climbing this pole, and he keeps sliding down. He's cussing every moment he's getting done with that. And we finally get up there, and it was about an hour, 2 hours into the hunt, and we're just sitting there scanning everything. And all of a sudden, I just feel the pole just start to slip a little bit, and his, his stand just goes, whew. He goes, oh, I puckered my butt. I said, I
Yeah,
think it's time for us to get down.
yeah, yeah. That was
That was that's pretty bad.
that was good. That was fun, man.
Yeah,
There's days, there's times where it's gonna be like that for everybody. It's sometimes that makes those trips even better.
yeah. I mean, having somebody to spend that time with. Now, regardless on if you go out by yourself or you're with somebody, you know, have have some enjoyment about it. You know, no, don't be serious the whole time. I mean, yeah, if you're out there to hunt a deer, I get it. You want to be focused, but as I said before, mistakes happen, and you just gotta roll with it. You know,
Right. I mean, to be it's one of the easiest ways that you can get that childhood sense of play. Just go out in the woods, be a goofball, man.
yeah. I mean, yeah. All right. So, all right. How do you feel? And this is just hypothetically speaking, and this is going off a little bit about hunting, kind of geared toward more. Um, I guess. I guess what you would say is we're not hunting, and you know there's other hunters around. Do we walk through? How do you tell me about your process for tips for people so that way they kind of avoid those areas? Because, like for me, when I'm fishing, I get we got kids, and I'm not sitting there saying you need to teach your kids not to do stuff because I mean they're going to be kids. I'll move my stuff, that's fine. But if you're a grown adult and you're down by the riverside or the pond or whatever else, and you're right next to someone that's fishing, don't throw a rock in the water. You see what I mean? And that's just kind of the same aspect and kind of the same sense of what I'm trying to get at is if we're in the woods and we're hunting and somebody walks in, that's going to ruin it. I mean, I know game wardens walk in. You hear a game warden, run. No, I'm joking. Don't do that. But, but what I'm saying is what would you do in that scenario, Eddie? If
As the hunter or as the person intruding?
as the person walking into the woods.
Um, so this is actually a common occurrence in my area, just out here, just east, just because, yeah, most of the public lands that are available as wildlife management areas or equivalent also happen to be right next to or in state parks or national lands. So hikers are a year-round occurrence. Um, the the best advice that I can give someone who is not a hunter out in the woods during the hunting seasons is have your orange. Everybody should have some during the firearm season. You don't have to have, a full on vest if you're not out there hunting, but at least an orange cap, it helps, you know. God forbid, someone run into you or you run into them and they don't know you're a person.
Hey. Yeah, walk out with
That'd be
bullet
bad.
holes.
But as the person intruding, personally, I would be apologetic if I didn't know that they were in the area. If they were in the area, I would announce myself if I can't help but cut through the area that they're posted in. That is an unfortunate situation. I've had that happen to me. Um, I used to be a Maryland resident, so I used to hunt out. You can hunt in Greenbrier Forest, um, which there's hiking trails all through there. I had hikers walk up on me while I was in a in a ground blind. I had my orange on the outside, which clearly marks that there's a hunter right there, and they walked right in front of my ground blind, and I had my muzzle loader out and everything. They looked at me like I was in the wrong, and I was observing all the current local regulations at that time, but I got busted. That was the end of my hunt for that part of the day. I had to pack up and move somewhere else, man. I had someone, walk right through. They, no cover sense or nothing. That's unfortunately a common occurrence in these parts sometimes. It can lead to some foul exchanges. I have heard. People exchange some rude words. People exchange some shouts. You know, Everyone tries to do their best not to let it escalate, but it happens. If you are the person who walks up on another hunter, or if you're not a hunter and you walk up on a hunter, give them their room, man. You wouldn't want someone affecting the way you put food on your table.
Yeah, that's really good. That kind of covered the whole point what I was trying to get at, and you know, and if you are the hunter out there, do like Eddie said, pack up, man. Just go to a different place. Maybe it's just not your day. Take it with a grain of salt. People are going to be people. Animals are going to be animals. You know, and I've got a few more points I want to touch on, and then we'll go to the end, and just let you know we're going to about to be wrapping it up here in a little bit. But so let's talk about the environment. You know, and what I mean by that is when you go to like public lands, WMAs, you know, state parks, um, you know, private lands, or even if it's just your backyard woods type deal, you know, when you look on the ground, Eddie, what is 9 times out of 10 what you see?
I hate to say it, but litter.
Trash.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. You know, I mean everywhere. I'm talking from playgrounds and parks to the local creek water access to the WMA in my neck of the woods. Like it's ridiculous. It's everywhere, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
Leave no trace used to be one of the first lessons anybody was taught about being out in the wilderness, and it's a shame that people either don't care or don't know any better, and we need to be better about it. You know, if you see it and you have the room in your pack it out, man. It's not hurting you. I mean, what's a box full of shells weigh loaded?
Probably about
A couple
50
pounds.
pounds. Yeah.
You telling me you can't pick up them empty shells? You know, you brought them in, bring them out.
Yeah.
Heck, you see a couple water bottles, a Gatorade bottle or something. That's just a piece of plastic, man. Throw it in your pack. Pack it out. Pack it. Throw it in the nearest trash can, the next dumpster you see. Heck, keep a bag in your truck. I do. I keep a contractor bag in my truck. Anytime I see it and I'm out there, I throw it in mine. I take it with me. It's something everybody should try and do whenever they can. You know?
I feel like that should be an effort for not just hunters, but for everybody. You know, there have been more times that I walked down a road and just it be littered, and that's just not here in Oklahoma. I mean, that's nationwide. You know, like we had made a point earlier before we came on here. We were talking about the same thing about trash. You know, you leave trash on the ground, and whether that be a bottle or you know plastic cup or shells or something that's not biodegradable. Now, I'm not sitting there saying throw out a piece of paper because it's biodegradable. Because I mean, I get it, whatever. But what I'm saying is we're killing our forest. We're killing the animals' habitat. I mean, they're forcing themselves out of areas that used to be prominent for them. Just like Eddie said about rivers, lakes, access to water. Ducks don't fly in places that are contaminated. They just don't. They see that trash and they've been
Skip
there
right over it.
and they just go right over it because it don't look right. I mean, if an animal looks at the ground and looks at it and says that don't look right or acts that way and moves on, chances are it's not right. And I'm not just talking about hunters because I know that majority of hunters, and I'm not saying that there are hunters out there that do that stuff because I don't know. Because I mean, you might be that person that picks up trash. That's great. I hope we can do that. But I'm also talking about campers. Just normal tourists that come in here. There's signs everywhere. There's trash cans everywhere. Yes, don't leave your trash out in a trash can on a park because then you got raccoons and they go in there or bears and they tear up trash and it gets littered everywhere. But what I'm saying is, if you see it, pick it up, throw it away. My partner, soon to be wife, nothing against hippies or tree huggers, nothing. My partner is a tree hugger. And While yes, she has her moments about, what I hunt and what I can't put on the wall and blah, 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 blah. But she makes an effort to preserve our environment. You know, as somebody that studies plants and, you know, the different types of trees and, she goes out and forages. You throw trash down around these areas, these plants, these trees, you know, the main food sources for these animals, and it gets buried, they'll starve. And they don't want to
Still on
dig
my
through all
call.
that
You
stuff.
go ahead.
Now they
Get ready
will
for
if they're
bed.
hungry. But, we're also killing natural plants that grow in the area. We're killing, like I said, their food source. Eventually the trees are going to start to die because the fungus can't break down decaying matter, and which provides also nutrients for trees and stuff as well as it brings it back to the soil, and we're just causing our soil to be toxic. And I want my kids, and Eddie will probably say the same. I want my kids, my grandkids, to be able to hunt the woods that I hunted, or at least hunt a wood that isn't dying.
Yeah, man. That's that is a moving way to put that. We should all want our kids and grandkids to be able to go through them same woods, the same places, and say, "Look, man, right here. This is where Granddaddy he shot that biggest buck he ever shot right here. That's something I can go and do in one of my local wildlife management areas, just across the state line in Maryland. My granddad's hunted in Maryland his whole life. His first deer, I can tell you where he went and shot that. And that's something that's cool, man. That's something that, you know, we might start seeing less of, and that's a shame.
No, I mean that's true, and I don't want to just keep on, you know, digging and digging and digging, you know, with this issue.
No connections kind of going in
Yeah,
and
it's a
out.
little spotty. I see. Yeah. Um.
There
So
it is.
there it goes. That's better. Um. All right. So let's get off of that, and I also want to touch a little bit on it. If you kill something, bring it out with you. Not sitting there saying that you're like, well, it's wildlife, it blah blah blah. I feel that we should start an organization for people who can't provide as much. And say we kill a couple deer and we've already filled our freezer and we killed another deer. I feel like we should be able to donate that meat to homeless shelters, to family that needs it. I feel like that should be an organization that should be started because I know what it's like to live somewhere and not have the ability to get, certain necessities for my family. And, you know, I feel as a hunter, I feel like it's my obligation to try to help as many people as possible because I know what it's like. You know, Eddie comes down and he comes and hunts. He's not looking for the big buck. He's not looking for, you know, this trophy. He's coming down to hunt. He's coming down for food because it's getting harder nowadays. And hunting is one of those things that, well, yes, we have rules and regulations on it, and I'll get to that in another video. Um, but we have those people, and you know, I know that Eddie does his best, and I do my best, but Times are tough. And I feel that as as a person that hunts, if I get too much, I'm going to donate. What do you say about that?
I've heard of, local collections and donations being gathered. I don't know if there's a national organization or even a state level organization in places that do that. But I mean, yeah, if I have some to share, for sure.
And you know, while we go, through a couple more things, um, if you need help, whether that be for food or if you need understanding of things, feel free to reach out. I mean, I'm pretty sure between me and him, we can find the necessary requirements to help you or give you somebody's phone number or put you in the right direction. You know,
Right.
I
The
know
building of community is the goal.
exactly. And to expand on that, you know, I know a lot of hunters out there, especially, a lot of seasoned hunters, I don't want to give my secrets away or I don't want to give my tips away or, I want to be successful. Well, that's great. I hope that you are successful. But I want to help people be successful because I wish that somebody, because, I mean, we were just talking about that earlier about how, we grew up watching these TV shows, hunting TV shows, and just watching the guy just giving out information to kind of help young hunters and people just to watch. I remember that growing up, and I feel like we just need to be more informative, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, some of the best tips and tricks I've had hunting comes from other hunters being willing to talk to you. Yeah, it's a big thing. Um, you know, there is the community as a whole, but your community is only as big as you allow it. And if you don't talk to your fellow hunters, then you don't know. You might be in an okay spot, but there might be a better spot that's on public land for you. There might be someone who's willing to let you hunt on their private lands. You gotta talk to somebody, talk to people. You gotta show your willingness to be put yourself out there.
Yeah, and to touch on the community thing, I think as a group of hunters, we have some bad apples. And not to point fingers or tell names, but you got these hunters out here that will put another hunter down for what they're wearing, what they're using, where they're at, their the size of their buck. You know, it may not be a pretty duck or goose or whatever they're hunting, and they'll put them down. And now we have hunters nowadays that don't even see the effort of doing it anymore. And I feel like we need to stop doing that. Look, I'm not sitting there saying I don't care what you wear, but wear it. Use it. You know, be active. Put in the effort. You know, you're only gonna get out of something for what you put into it. But don't diss to some. Don't put them down. You know, Eddie comes to hunt. He wears whatever. I don't sit there and go, "Why
Shoot,
are
I'll
you
tell you,
wearing
I'm
that?"
a Realtree guy. I'll tell
Exactly.
you, I wear Realtree. I wear the same Realtree overalls and jacket that I've worn since I was 16.
I wear mossy oak, and when I go duck hunting, I wear frog togs. I mean, that's what I like to wear. It's comfortable. It's easy. I mean, hell, I've got the same damn pair of overalls that I've had since I was in high school. Yeah, the buttons are about gone on it and the buckle's gone. But I mean, I still use it because I don't want to throw it away. It's something that I've used for years,
They're
and it's
lucky
worked.
even.
Huh?
They're lucky even.
Yeah, I got to rub a little bit of luck on it. All right, so let's get off the sad stuff. Last point I want to point out is some myths. A little bit about myths and legends. I wouldn't say about more like legends, but some things that people have told you that kind of raise an eyebrow, like you really doing that? I guess if it works, top deal. You got any stories like that?
Yeah, 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 man. So uh, I heard this old timer going on out in the parking lot one time. Public lands, we're all loaded up, where everyone's packing their stuff out, getting ready to walk into the woods. It's probably 4 a.m. This dude is strapping on felts to the bottom of his boots. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? He's like, oh, well, you know what? If my feet don't smell like my feet, they don't know I'm in the woods. And he would take fox urine and soak these felt pads on the bottom of his boots in fox urine. And his claim was that if his footsteps didn't smell like human footsteps, he wasn't human. And that they couldn't tell that a human had walked through there. Hey, I mean, he got a deer that day and I didn't, so.
Hey, man, you must be doing something right. I've got one, and I've told Eddie about this, and it blows my mind still today. Uh, so I knew this guy that he was a lot older than I was, and dude was a serious hunter. I mean, he would spend 3 days out in a stand, and he would pee in bottles. He'd eat beef jerky. Cool. That's what he wants to do. That's great. But I mean, he would spend days in that. And his belief was if he drank deer pee and he didn't drink anything else, he'd be able to pee deer pee. And he believed it, and he would do it. Now, he got some trophy bucks that way, but I do not recommend that. It's the nastiest thing I ever heard in my life. And he believed it to this day that if you drink deer pee, you'll pee it out. He'll make your own pee. That's what he said.
Oof,
That's rough, man. That's rough. And
it's
I
wild, man.
understand. I understand people putting it on their clothes. I don't do that. I soak sticks and I put it on string and I hang it out or I dump a little bit here, a little bit there, because I'm not drinking it. You know. But yeah, it just blows my mind. Um, and there's a lot more stories that I've heard over the years, and Eddie's probably heard a lot more stories about stuff like that. Um,
Heard some wild
but
ones.
but I want to touch about our next couple videos that we're going to be doing on a podcast. Today we're just coming out on a live stream, kind of let you guys know about what we're going to be talking about, kind of give you an idea about the podcast going forward. I know this is a live, but we're going to go over some do's and don'ts, some brands that we've tried in the past and what we feel like is effective and what isn't. We're going to give some more tricks and tips to people. Talk about more about myths and legends, especially living in Appalachia. Most of our lives we've heard a lot of legends, a lot of stories. And then, possibly go down some rabbit holes. But I guess our next podcast that we're going to do, which will be coming up in the future, we're going to talk about a few what animals live in the woods and don't care that you're there, that will chase you, hunt you, or ruin your hunt altogether. So I think that's going to be a fun subject that we're going to go into on that one. But again, I'm Justin Doyle. That's Eddie.
Edward McFadden.
This is Region Shells. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope that your next hunt is a better one. Have a good day.